Have you ever felt a chilling presence while walking through your own home, as if unseen eyes were observing your every move? Have you ever experienced the unnerving sensation of whispering voices in the stillness of the night, voices with no discernible source? Imagine a place where the past refuses to remain buried, where the very walls pulse with an indescribable dread. This is my story, the true account of the house on the left, a haunting that forever changed my life. I still remember the day we moved into the house on the left. It was a bright, cloudless morning in early September, and I was filled with a mix of excitement and anxiety. My husband James had found the house online, a beautiful Victorian nestled in the quiet town of Redwood Falls. It was priced far below market value, a deal too good to pass up. As soon as we saw it, with its grand porch and ornate gables, we were smitten. It seemed like the perfect place to raise our daughter Clara. As we approached the house, a peculiar sense of foreboding washed over me. The paint was peeling, and the windows looked like hollow eyes staring back at us. But I dismissed my unease as mere nerves. After all, moving to a new home is always stressful. James and I stepped through the front door, Clara holding tightly to my hand. The interior was even more charming than the pictures had shown. High ceilings, intricate woodwork, and spacious rooms bathed in natural light. But there was an undercurrent, a feeling that something was watching us. I shivered involuntarily. Cold? James asked, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. Just a draft, I replied, forcing a smile. The first few days in the new house were a whirlwind of unpacking and settling in. Clara was overjoyed with her new room, decorated in pastel colors and filled with her favorite stuffed animals. James and I worked tirelessly to make the place our own, painting walls, hanging pictures, and arranging furniture. But as the initial excitement faded, I began to notice odd things. At night, I would hear faint footsteps echoing through the halls, even though I knew Clara and James were asleep. The air always seemed a bit colder in the house, no matter how high we set the thermostat. Sometimes I would catch a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye, only to turn and find nothing there. One evening, as I was tucking Clara into bed, she looked at me with wide, innocent eyes and asked, "Mommy, who is the lady in the hallway?" My heart skipped a beat. "What lady, sweetheart?" "The one who stands by my door at night," Clara said matter-of-factly. She looked sad. A chill ran down my spine. "There's no lady, Clara. It's just your imagination." Clara frowned but didn't argue. She was a perceptive child, often noticing things that others overlooked. That night I barely slept, straining to hear any sound that might explain my daughter's unsettling words. Over the next few weeks, the occurrences became more frequent and harder to ignore. I would find objects moved from their original places, lights flickering on and off, and doors opening on their own. One morning I discovered a set of muddy footprints leading from the back door through the kitchen. James insisted it was just dirt tracked in from outside, but the pattern didn't match any of our shoes. The final straw came one night when I was alone in the house. James was working late, and Clara was spending the night at a friend's. I was reading in the living room when I heard a soft, mournful humming. It was a tune I didn't recognize, and it seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. I followed the sound up the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached the top, the humming stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was oppressive, thick with an unseen presence. I turned towards Clara's room and saw the door slowly creak open. Inside, the room was dark except for a sliver of moonlight filtering through the window. I stepped in, my hands trembling. There, in the middle of the room, stood a figure, a woman, her face obscured by shadows. She wore a long, tattered dress and seemed to shimmer like a mirage. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The woman turned her head towards me, and though I couldn't see her eyes, I felt her gaze pierce through me. She raised a hand as if to reach out, and then she vanished, leaving the room deathly cold. The next morning, I confided in James about what I had seen. He listened, his face pale. "We need to find out more about this house," he said. "Something isn't right here." We began our research, digging through old town records and talking to long-time residents. What we uncovered was a history steeped in tragedy. The house had been built in the late 1800s by a man named Jonathan Blake, a prosperous businessman. His wife Margaret had died under mysterious circumstances, and their young daughter Eliza had vanished without a trace. Over the years, subsequent owners reported strange occurrences, voices, apparitions, and unexplained cold spots. The house had a reputation for being haunted, which explained why it had remained unsold for so long. Desperate for help, we contacted a local historian and paranormal expert, Dr. Evelyn Harper. She agreed to visit the house and conduct an investigation. When she arrived, she immediately sensed the heavy atmosphere. "There is a presence here," she said, "and it's very strong." Dr. Harper set up equipment throughout the house: cameras, audio recorders, and electromagnetic field detectors. For hours we watched and waited, the tension palpable. As night fell, the house seemed to come alive with activity. Footsteps echoed in empty rooms, doors creaked open, and the temperature plummeted. In Clara's room, the cameras captured a faint, ghostly figure standing by the window. It was the woman I had seen before, her expression one of sorrow and longing. Dr. Harper's audio recorders picked up a soft, plaintive voice repeating a single word: Eliza. Dr. Harper analyzed the data and concluded that the spirit was indeed Margaret Blake, searching for her lost daughter. "Her grief and anguish have bound her to this place," she explained. "She is trapped, reliving her despair over and over." James and I were determined to help. We decided to hold a séance, hoping to communicate with Margaret and offer her some peace. Dr. Harper guided us through the process, and as we sat around the table in the dim candlelight, the air grew thick with anticipation. "Margaret," Dr. Harper called out, "we are here to help you. Please show us what you need." At first there was nothing. Then the temperature dropped, and a faint outline appeared across the table. The candles flickered, and we heard a soft sobbing. I felt a wave of overwhelming sadness wash over me, as if Margaret's pain were my own. "Eliza," a voice whispered. "Find Eliza." Dr. Harper nodded. "We will, Margaret. We will help you find your daughter." Our investigation into Eliza's disappearance took us deeper into the town's history. We discovered that Jonathan Blake had been a stern and reclusive man, devastated by his wife's death. Eliza had been his world, and when she vanished, he spiraled into madness. Rumors circulated that he had hidden her away, fearing that she would be taken from him as Margaret had been. With Dr. Harper's guidance, we searched the house for clues. In the basement, behind a false wall, we found a small hidden room. The sight that greeted us was heart-wrenching. A tiny bed, old toys and drawings on the walls. It was clear that Eliza had been kept there, hidden away from the world. Among the items, we found a diary, its pages brittle with age. Eliza's childish handwriting told a story of loneliness and longing, of missing her mother and wondering why her father kept her locked away. The last entry was dated the day she vanished. Armed with this new information, we held another séance. This time we focused on Eliza, hoping to reach her spirit and reunite her with Margaret. As we sat around the table, the room grew colder, and a soft child's voice filled the air. "Mommy, Eliza, is that you?" Dr. Harper asked gently. "Yes, where's Mommy?" "She's here, Eliza. She misses you very much." The air crackled with energy, and Margaret's figure appeared beside Eliza's. The two spirits reached out to each other, and as they touched, a wave of warmth filled the room. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and release. "Thank you," Margaret whispered. "Thank you for bringing my daughter back to me." With that, the two spirits faded, leaving the house still and quiet. In the weeks that followed, the house felt different. The cold spots vanished, the footsteps ceased, and the oppressive weight that had hung in the air was gone. Clara slept peacefully, no longer troubled by visions of the sad lady in the hallway. James and I decided to stay in the house. It no longer felt like a place of dread, but a home where we had made a difference. The experience had brought us closer as a family and taught us the power of compassion and understanding. We continued to share our story, hoping to help others who might be experiencing similar hauntings. The house on the left had a tragic past, but through our efforts it had found peace. And every now and then, in the quiet of the night, I would feel a gentle, comforting presence, a reminder that Margaret and Eliza had finally found each other and moved on. Years have passed since we first moved into the house on the left. Clara is now a teenager, and though she remembers the strange occurrences, she speaks of them with a sense of wonder rather than fear. The house has become a symbol of our resilience and the enduring power of love. James and I often sit on the porch in the evenings, watching the sunset and reflecting on our journey. The haunting had tested us in ways we could never have imagined, but it had also shown us the strength of our bond and the importance of facing our fears head-on. Dr. Harper remained a close friend and continued her work, helping countless families find peace in their homes. She often remarked on how our story had inspired her and reaffirmed her belief in the unseen world. As for the house, It stands as a testament to the spirits who once called it home. Though their presence is no longer felt, their story lives on, a reminder that even in the darkest places, light and love can prevail. And so the house on the left became more than just a place to live. It became a part of our story, a chapter in our lives that we would never forget.